Welcome to True Crime Bites, Death Row and Executions, where we honor lives lost and revisit the final chapters of those who crossed the line. I'm really glad you're here. She lived in an upscale neighborhood with manicured lawns and perfect smiles, nestled safely behind the gates of Little Santon in Botswana. A picture-perfect life. Until one morning, a woman was found dead, shot twice. No witnesses, no warning, and the killer, a grieving widow turned bride. This is the chilling story of Mariette Bosch, a woman whose pursuit of love led her to the gallows. She was well-dressed, well-liked, and well-connected. Mariette Sonia Leen Bosch, born in 1950 in South Africa, didn't stand out as the type of woman you'd find on death row. She moved with her husband, Justin Bosch, and their 3 children to Gaborone, Botswana, in search of a safer, more prosperous life. They settled in Lane, a suburb so wealthy and locals dubbed it Little Santon, after the affluent Johannesburg district. Mariette quickly became part of the city's high society, attending church and befriending another prominent couple, Ria and Martinus, also known as Tienye Wolmerans. At first, it all seemed wholesome. Church gatherings, afternoon tea, friendship. But behind the carefully crafted facade, something far more dangerous was brewing. In 1995, tragedy struck. Justin Bosch died in a car crash, leaving Mariette a widow. She was devastated, or so it seemed. However, soon after, rumors began to circulate. Mariette and Tienye Wolmaran, Ria's husband, were spending a lot of time together. Too much time. The two began a secret affair. And while Tienye had already separated from Ria once in 1993, they had reconciled. He told Mariette he would leave her again. He promised, but he never followed through. It's the kind of story that sounds like a soap opera until someone ends up dead. Then in June of 1996, something unthinkable happened. Mariette traveled to Petersburg, South Africa, and collected a pistol that had once belonged to her father. The next day, she returned to Botswana, smuggling the gun across the border. Later that evening, she crept into the Wolmerans' home, just 2 blocks from her own, climbed the perimeter wall, and entered. Inside was 53-year-old Ria Wolmerans. She never saw it coming. 2 shots rang out. One hit her in the stomach, the other in the ribs, and then silence. There were no signs of forced entry, no witnesses, and no immediate suspects. Imagine living in a place where you think you know your neighbors, only to find out one of them scaled a wall and committed cold-blooded murder right down the street. At first, police believed it was a burglary gone wrong, but behind the scenes, Mariette was making plans. She confided in her sister-in-law, Judith Bosch, saying she wanted to marry Tienye. They had no idea Judith and Mariette weren't exactly close. In fact, Judith didn't trust her at all. When Mariette gave Judith the murder weapon, supposedly to return it to its rightful owner, Judith handed it straight to the police. The final nail in the coffin? Just 3 months after the murder, Mariette had ordered a custom wedding dress from a designer in Pretoria. Her plan was already in motion. Police arrested her in connection with the killing. And while Tienye was also briefly held, he was released after a night in custody. No charges were ever brought against him. That detail always stood out to me. How quickly he was released, how she shouldered the entire burden. Whether he was innocent or just lucky, we may never really know. In December 1999, after a long and bizarre trial, Mariette Bosch was found guilty of murder. Prosecutors said it was a classic case of the 4 L's of murder: love, loot, lust, and loathing. Her affair with Tienye, her jealousy, her obsession, it had all ended in bloodshed. She was sentenced to death by hanging, Botswana's mandatory punishment for murder, unless there were extenuating circumstances. Her legal team appealed the sentence. High-profile British barrister Sir Desmond de Silva argued that another suspect had been granted immunity for testifying and that this wasn't revealed in court. But on January 30th, 2001, the appeal was denied. Her final hope was a presidential pardon from Botswana's president, Festus Mogae. But it never came. On the morning of March the 31st, 2001, at 5:30 a.m., without any advance warning to her family, lawyers, or even her husband, Mariette Bosch was led to gallows at Gaborone Central Prison. There was no special meal, no last goodbye, just a hangman, a minister, a doctor, and prison officials. Tienye, now her husband, learned about her death the next day on the radio. He had tried to visit her the day before the execution, but was told the prison was under inspection. In reality, her death warrant had already been signed. That moment hits hard. To find out someone you love has been executed, not from a letter, not from a phone call, but from a radio broadcast in your car. It's hard to imagine a colder goodbye. In Botswana, no family members are allowed to witness executions. No sedatives are administered, and the body is buried in an unmarked grave within the prison grounds. To this day, no one knows exactly where Mariette Bosch was laid to rest. The secrecy surrounding her execution sparked international outrage. Human rights groups like Amnesty International and South African organizations condemn the swiftness and the silence. Even South African President Thabo Mbeki, who had been preparing a petition to intervene, didn't realize she was already gone. The case came to be known as Botswana's White Mischief, drawing comparisons to the infamous murder and love triangle in colonial Kenya. But this wasn't fiction. This was real. A woman's life taken, a family destroyed, and a final act of justice or vengeance carried out in the dead of night. It's easy to see why this case still lingers in the minds of so many. It's not just about what she did. It's about how fast it all unraveled and how quietly it ended. To this day, Mariette Bosch remains the first white woman to be executed in Botswana, and hers is a story that continues to haunt both sides of the border. Love, betrayal, murder, and a noose in the dark. This was the last chapter in the life of Mariette Bosch. Thanks for watching. Stories like this remind us just how thin the line can be between love and obsession, and how quickly a seemingly perfect life can spiral into tragedy. Hit that like button if you found this case as haunting as I did. Subscribe for more true crime stories that dig beneath the surface. And let me know in the comments, was justice served here, or does this case still leave you with questions? As always, stay curious and stay safe.